is something that weighs on my mind a lot because with the 33 years I have in, I'm looking at retirement. So when I leave, what's coming behind me? So the realities of paying it forward and trying to help mentor people to move into administrative positions, to take that path. Here in our district, we have an amazing career path for our teacher leaders to become administrators and to work their way in through the system so that we can grow our own, so to speak, in that regard. I think the future of leadership is, I'd like to still think that there's positivity out there and there's still a chance to change the world, because that's why we're here. We have to always be working to make it better. We have barriers that are getting thrown up in front of us. We're getting, things tossed at us from all over the place. So the future of education depends a lot upon how we react to the situations that are happening now.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to TomoClub podcast. I'm Avinash, co-founder of TomoClub, and today we have a very special guest with us. We are incredibly honored to host Dr. Theresa Rouse. She's the superintendent of Joliet Public School District, 86. It's the third largest elementary district in Illinois, and it's serving over 10,000 students. Dr. Rouse is a recognized leader by AASA National Women's Leadership Consortium. And I actually have been following your work on equity, bilingual education, forward-thinking initiatives. So thank you, Dr. Rouse, for joining in. It's fantastic to have you here.
Thank you so much. And my last name is pronounced Rouse, like mouse. So Dr. Rouse, it's all good.
Okay, got it. Thank you for the correction. And today's topic is actually very interesting. It's about future of leadership in K-12 education. I think we were just discussing like how hard right now it is to fill up those leadership positions in K-12, whether it is quality of talent, whether it's people not showing up, people not having those same kind of honor in the society to feel happy about working in K-12, or the decline of public education in general. So I think it's a very opportune time to have the discussion and I can't wait to get in.
Yeah, the future of leadership in K-12 education it's a critical piece. And those of us who are in the positions have to work to build that field up, because it's a shrinking pool of candidates these days. So I look at it as paying it forward. The more people I can mentor into leadership roles.
No, absolutely. It's more about building right now than expecting to source right now. And so when I was researching about you, I read a lot about your, whatever it takes philosophy and how it actually drives impactful change. So tell us about it. I think that's a good segue to discuss about leadership.
Sure. Yeah. Whatever it takes just simply means we're going to do anything we have to do to meet the needs of our students. Every decision we make in our district is student focused. We always look to everything in regards to how is this going to help our students moving forward. We work closely with our community. We build our foundation isn't just about people who have education backgrounds. It's about everybody in the community and really building those pieces up. So the whatever it takes means it doesn't matter if it takes people, if it takes money, if it takes books, if it just takes sitting and listening to somebody. That's what we're going to do, because we need to hear what people are struggling with. We need to hear where people are to be able to help them move from point A to point Z.
No, I absolutely agree with that. And so what do you think, what is that problem statement where, the school leaders should prioritize this whatever it takes ideology for the next 2 years? I don't even talk 5 years anymore, I think. So
yeah. These days it's a 2-year increment, and we just keep growing from there. Prioritizing whatever it takes means you have to look at all of your resources differently. You have to look at, obviously we have to look at budgets, but I don't want to make it all about dollars and cents, because it really isn't. People keep thinking that, educators just want more money. We don't want more money. We want the opportunity to have flexibility to do what we need to do to meet the needs of our students. We do a lot of work in our district around equity and the notion of how do we meet all the individual needs of our students. It's not a one size fits all. We try to really open up our thinking to get to know our students culturally to get them to know them emotionally, get to know them on academically, to get them to know them physically, so that we have that well-rounded exposure with them, so that we can work to meet their needs. And sometimes meeting their needs, it means we have to also open up that dialogue with the family even deeper, so that we get to know what are those contributing factors to what is happening in our classrooms.
So if you have to point out one like most pressing problem statement where we need to have this ideology, what would be that one problem statement right now?
That problem statement would be focused around trauma, and how much is contrived, and how much is actually based upon the poverty or the environmental situation in which our students live. The notion of contrived trauma, what I mean by that is, what are we creating ourselves that we don't need to create? There's enough trauma out there. Why are we making more problems? And that's where sometimes the political dynamic comes into play, and it's contrived trauma. It doesn't have to be that way. Our students are dealing with enough trauma. Our staff are dealing with enough trauma. So how can we work to reduce? You can't completely eliminate trauma, but we could reduce it. And that's how we try to work around things. We work with a lot of different companies and a lot of different partners to really help bring in what we need for our students. When we start the school year, we don't even start with academics. We start with who's in the room, what do they bring to the table. We're looking at assets, not deficits. So we're trying to look at what do they bring, who are they, and what can we do social emotional to build those relationships before we get into academics.
No, absolutely. I think any current employee working with you or the future employees would love to hear that, would love to know that, because at the end of the day, the money hits our account once in a month, but for the entire 30 days, we are dealing with the same set of people. So it's like 100x more important from the working place point of view. And
Absolutely.
I would say composition point of view. So, but I would love to know, what's your leadership style look like? Like, what, if you can define that?
You know, I try not to put myself in a box, because I've worked in a lot of different situations. This is like my 34th year in education, and it's my 16th year as a superintendent. I've learned so much over the years to where we're all conglomerates of different things. We're not just one leadership style. I see myself as being very empathetic. I really try to make certain that I'm listening more than I'm speaking. And I'm a big believer that I don't have all the right ideas. I don't have all the answers. We together as a collective. So I collaborate. I do a shared distributed model. I have an amazing set of executive level leaders in this district that work with me, that they push back on me, I push back on them, and we come up with what are the good decisions for our students moving forward, because no one person can contain all that. So I see myself as a servant leader. I try to give more than I try to take, because I see my role as a superintendent, especially in these days and times, as being more of a calling than of a job.
Yeah,
it's who I was meant to be. It's not about the paycheck. It's not about the title, but this role and how I can build relationships and really work to touch as many lives as I can. That's kind of what I was born to be. And it feels like it's so interesting, because I was in California for like 22 years before I came here. And everything there, I thought I was, like working at the top of my game. And then I came here and realized that everything from those 22 years was like the dress rehearsal for what I'm doing right now. And I know that all of that was preparation for where I am right now. This is year 10 here in Joliet. And it is incredible to see where we have come from where we were 10 years ago.
Wow. Would you mind explaining that? Like, what was that? How did you feel that it was all the preparation for what were the challenges that you faced at Joliet?
Well, when you come new into an area, and here I was coming from California, and sometimes people in the Midwest have certain opinions about people who live in
I know.
California, and I'm like, okay, but I grew up in Indiana, and so in a sense, it was like I was coming home. I purposely was looking for a position that would bring me back closer to my family, and my siblings all live around the Indianapolis area, so this was getting me much closer. So as people got to know me and realized, oh, you're from the Midwest, so they're like, okay, so that broke down some of the barriers. But the realities of community acceptance of this school district and of this work in this area was interesting. And people would tell me, oh, you're going to be at District 86. Okay, it's almost like we'll pray for you kind of a thing. And I'm like, wow, okay. So, but 2 years ago, we passed a referendum for $99.5 million with a 72% yes vote from this community to build 2 new junior highs to replace some of our very, very old buildings. Community support has totally 180'd. And the challenge in that coming in new to the environment was I had to get to know people and get to know them quick. So, moving around the community, I live in the community. I don't live outside and commute in. I live in my school district. And that helps me to embed myself more in the community to help change that perception. But challenges in moving to a different state to take on these roles. I had worked with English learners before. I had worked with students of poverty before, but the district where I was a superintendent before I came here, I had 4 school sites and about 2,600 students. I came here, and when I first came here, we had close to 12,000 students across 21 buildings. So same work, but exponentially larger.
Right.
So there were several challenges in that regard, but because I had worked in small school districts, I'd had to do all the jobs. Now I have people to do the jobs, but I know what I need in those jobs. So I'm better able to help lead from this level because I've sat in the seat, so to speak.
No, I agree with you. It's very similar to a very startup versus enterprise ideology. So people who work at a startup, they find it excellence working at enterprise because they tend to take ownership much more, I would say, because they have done it all. And whether from changing a bulb to taking a decision of millions of dollars,
Exactly.
I'm sure.
Exactly.
But I think, so I'm pretty sure now I know why you started working in education in the first place. You said that, that's something that you were born with. But do you think that the reason that you started working, is it still the same reason that you're still here, or it has changed over the years?
It changes and morphs over the years. I think that's just part of how we age and mature in our lives and the experiences that we have, because our lived experiences cause us to change. When I first decided I wanted to be a teacher, it was because I loved my kindergarten music teacher was my absolute love. I met her. I wanted to be a music teacher. By 3rd grade, I had given up the notion of being a music teacher, and I just wanted to be a teacher. I really needed to be in school. School was my safe place. There was something about school that was my comfort zone, and being able to help students. It was just what it needed to be. I worked myself through college doing all kinds of different jobs that I knew I never wanted to do again. And it's like, no. So, but being a teacher, I really feel that that human connection, that ability to give back, that ability to build better for our entire world moving forward. Because if we don't have people who believe in the students, who believe in the path that we need to take, then how are we going to have a better future? So everything's been about that. Leaving the classroom to become an administrator was a really hard decision for me because I I was afraid I was going to miss my kiddos. But the reality is that impact grows and that it spreads across even larger sets of students. This morning, I just recorded myself doing an intro video. We do a one book, one district theme every year. And our book this year is called The World According to Humphrey. And it's about a classroom pet that's a hamster.
Mhm.
And so we have different community members read chapters of the book on video. We put it all together, and then the students all have that to access with their families or in their classrooms. And so I do the intro. So I'm all excited, and I'm talking about, yes, let's get reading, and the whole. But that connection with the kiddos, and when I go to the schools, they're like, "Hey, you were on the video." Those connections are huge. This year, I'm going to do a new thing with students. I do a lot of things to try to highlight our students, but I'm going to have fifth grade students be superintendent for the day. And get their parents to sign off that they're able to leave the school and be with me for the whole day. I'm going to have 3 students at a time with me, and they're going to go to all the meetings I go to that day. They're going to be part of everything I do. We're in the midst of building these 2 new junior highs. So I talked with the construction team, and they're going to have hard hats and security vests, and they'll get to go on the construction sites with me for the construction visits and for the meetings. But that exposure, giving students that opportunity to see outside of themselves, and what life can be. On my email, there's one of the quotes on my email talks about that in education, we turn mirrors into windows. And when students first come to us, they're learning about themselves. So they're looking in a mirror. And the whole time they're in school, then we're broadening that exposure and that what they're learning about so that they can see out the window and see what is possible in the future. So opening up those possibilities, opening up the window for them to be able to see their future in a different way.
I wonder, have you ever met any student like yours who wanted to be a teacher or who aspired to be a teacher at a grade 3 or grade 6? Have you ever met any of those kids?
Actually, there's some former students of mine that are teachers. Some of them have moved into administrative positions as well. Like I said, I've been at this for a while. And most of my teaching experience was from 5th grade up. So my students were older, but it's always interesting when they reach out and contact me and let me know what they're doing and what they're working on. It's an amazing feeling, because in 1 year of education, you don't get to see where they go. And I've moved around a lot. And so I've got former students all over the place. I taught school in Palestine for 2 years. I've got students all over the world from that experience there. And it's really fun to be able to see where you planted a seed and now where that's blossomed and grown.
But this is incredible, because I, on the other hand, have met most of the kids for which school was never a safe place. And, and I think if every teacher can inspire one of the student to be a teacher, I think we would have never have the problem of shortage, which is something.
Yes.
But a beautiful. I think this is like a full circle. If you have also inspired those students and they became a teacher and administrator, so it's all your work. So congratulations on that. So till now, I wanted to know you as a person before I can talk about what do you think about future of leadership in K-12. Now let's come to the topic.
Yeah, the future of leadership is something that weighs on my mind a lot, because with the 33 years I have in, I'm looking at retirement. So when I leave, what's coming behind me? So the realities of paying it forward and trying to help mentor people to move into administrative positions, to take that path. Here in our district, we have an amazing career path for our teacher leaders to become administrators and to work their way in through the system so that we can grow our own, so to speak, in that regard. I think the future of leadership is, I'd like to still think that there's positivity out there and there's still a chance to change the world, because that's why we're here. We have to always be working to make it better. We have barriers that are getting thrown up in front of us. We're getting, things tossed at us from all over the place. So the future of education depends a lot upon how we react to the situations that are happening now. We had COVID, we lived through it, we made it through. dear God in heaven, I don't ever want to run a school district from my kitchen table ever again. But that being said, we learned a lot about our leadership at that point. We learned how to reach people via Zoom. We learned how to still be connected, even though we weren't physically in the same space. I think we have to use all those things that we learned, keep moving them forward. We're hitting right now up against a lot of different political dynamics, against funding issues around all kinds of special things, but we can't let those issues define us.
Mm-hmm. No,
And the
absolutely.
future of leadership depends on that.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, I agree with you. I think, but when I talk to a lot of transitioning superintendents, they're still finding their way in the new place, and they often avoid bringing in major changes, especially in 1 to 3 years. So that it's better received by the staff. So do you see a change in that pattern for future leadership where uh, things are moving much faster? Otherwise, we spend as a superintendent 2 to 3 years to build a relationship before bringing change. And then I would say nowadays, average superintendency is not more than 4 years. So how do you see?
Right. And that's the thing, you can't wait too long. You have to come in knowing, first of all, if you're brand new to the environment like I was here, I needed to listen more than I did. Some of the teachers, when they would first meet me, they're like, so what are you going to bring and make us do? And I'm like, I'm not here to come make you do anything. I want to hear what you're doing, and I want to help enhance that to help make it better. So I didn't bring in any new change during my first year. We started our equity work the second year because what I was finding was disturbing, and we really needed to start approaching the notion of cultural competence and cultural proficiency in different ways. So if I'm mentoring someone who's a new leader, if they're going to be brand new in an environment, they have to get to know that new environment well before they make change. But you can't wait 3 years to make change.
Right.
So getting to know that new environment may take just a couple of months before you know something's got to go. In my first year here, I had no plans of eliminating or getting rid of any leaders, but I ended up having to remove 2 principals before the year was even half over, because it was just not healthy. And that's not something, sometimes could be a risky political thing to do,
Right.
but it turned out to be the best thing ever.
No, I'm glad you could take those bold steps. Like, a lot of chatter among the educational technology founders is like, until the superintendent has been in the district for more than 3 years, there's no point to reach out to them because they won't have the ability to take major calls. So
Right.
goes in a lot of edtech founders.
Oh, when I first came here, you would have died on the technology side. So we were using a very old email client, and I'm like, okay, I'm sorry, but we don't live in the late '90s. Where I'm like, have you ever heard of the Google? And they almost died. They were like, we're ready. Nobody's been willing to flip the switch. I said, well, flip it. So that was one of the first things I did, was get us move us to a Google district, because that old email client was almost as bad as using Hotmail.
Oh, yeah.
It was bad. It was bad, but we're way better now. So
Yeah, no, I'm glad. So we did talk about this before we started the podcast about the declining enrollments, and that's going to be one of the major challenges for any future leader.
Yeah.
What's your take on that? And how should anyone who's aspiring to be leader work on or think about it right now?
Well, it's when I first came here 10 years ago, we were close to 12,000 students. We're going to be starting the year with about 9,500 if everybody comes to school. My population is roughly 68% Hispanic Latino, and a good chunk of that are new arrivals. And so I don't know if they're going to even show up to school because they're afraid. So we're at this point counting on that they're going to be there because they know school's a safe place, but yet, is it safe these days is a serious question. But with declining enrollment, you have to always be looking forward 3 to 5 years. So you're looking at birth trends, you're looking at finances, you're looking at all those different pieces, as well as your facilities, because as facilities age, you need to look at how can you change them? How can you modify them? Right now, we're in a really good place as far as if everybody comes to school as supposed to, Our class sizes are about 19 to 20 to 1. So that's huge as far as amazing class sizes. But can I afford to keep those class sizes as we move forward? And that's the part that I have to have some hard conversations, because as federal money starts shrinking and is being frozen and potentially not coming, then there are decisions we have to make differently. Right now, I have a huge cadre of instructional coaches to support our teachers. Will I be able to support that moving forward? I don't know. We have a huge cadre of bilingual coaches to work with our bilingual classes to help those teachers. Will I be able to support that moving forward? I don't know. We have an amazing art and music program, which, as far as I'm concerned, if I have to use my own paycheck to fund it, we're not cutting that, because the ability to be able to have art and music with my students from kindergarten all the way through 8th grade is incredibly important. We have orchestra, band, and choir at all 4 of our junior highs. I went out and bought a violin because I hadn't played since high school, and I have actually played in the orchestras at the 4 junior highs with my students, because that's that piece of whole childness, But when you're looking at declining enrollment, you have to look at all of those pieces.
Right.
And if you're in a small district and you're alone, that can be a daunting piece, which is why superintendents have to network and make themselves available.
Yeah.
I always tell new superintendents, I'm like, you call any superintendent in any school district in the nation, you may have to leave a message, but they will call you back, because we all know what it's like being a superintendent.
Yeah. No, I think I've found this entire audience to be very receptive, because then only they became a superintendent in the first place. Otherwise, they would have not. But I think we didn't talk about one major part, that it's the public schools who are losing those students to other kind of schooling system. Definitely not private, because those people were anyways not coming to public schools, but to maybe charter or homeschooling or microschooling. That's a very big trend nowadays. I think you must know from the California angle. So what are your takes on that? I do see a kind of rivalry there, because it's the same public money,
right,
which is supposedly thought to be first public school district money, but now going to other places. How do you take that?
That's a really tough one, because yes, charter schools are still public schools, but as the money leaves with that student, so let's say I have 5 students leave to go to a charter school and that money goes with them, I still have to have a facility. I've still got to have teachers and whatnot for the other 20 kids that are here, or 15 kids now, but that's too small of a class. So now I'm going to have to go to bigger classes. And how does that work? And that stigma of large classes becomes one of the downfalls of public education, because we can't afford to maintain small classes sometimes. So that you have to work with and not look at it as a competition as much as how can we work together. We work with our private schools in town. There's a lot of Catholic schools in town. We work with them. We help provide support. We work with preschools in town to help with those early literacy skills that students need coming into kindergarten. To me, it's about partnerships and about being open versus being closed.
No, I agree with that 100%. Also, okay, this is a very interesting question. So a lot of school leadership time, it goes in juggling multiple things, right? So what are those things that suck most of your time? And what are those things that you want to spend more time but unable to?
I would love to be able to be in the school buildings, in classrooms much more frequently. The realities of the needs of governance. So, you've got the board members to deal with. You've got personnel. There's a huge chunk of time goes into personnel matters. Sometimes I kind of joke with some other superintendents that if we could send the adults home and keep the kids, we would, because sometimes the adults are more the trouble than the kids are. But so those personnel matters sometimes can suck up a lot of time. Budget matters. There's the facilities issues. I mean, like I said, we're in construction of these 2 new buildings. That sucks up a lot of time. And all of it's important. But if I find is if I don't get in school buildings at least once a week, I start to lose some of the sparkle. I start to lose some of the enthusiasm because you have to be reminded, you got to see them.
Yeah.
So I always tell my assistant, if my calendar starts getting too full, block off a day so that I can get into classrooms, because I need to spend time with kiddos. I can't do it every day, but I need it at least once a week.
No, I agree. But do you see that? So you mentioned a lot of administrative tasks, people management tasks, emailing, budgeting, and meetings. So do you see a use of AI changing your dynamics so that you have much more time being in the building, which you love the most?
I think AI is going to be beneficial as we get more proficient with how we use it. I have 8 cabinet members, so my executive leadership team, and I evaluate all of them. So they write their goals, they give me evidence toward their goals, and then I need to write up 8 different summative evaluations. And it's not like there's some sort of rubric that I'm just going to check buttons on. I need to write a narrative. So this year, I used AI to help me. I put all the information in and said, write a summary evaluation statement on these performance objectives and evidence. And it gave me a great starting point. I didn't just copy and paste that, but I used that to help frame how I needed to respond to them, and it saved me time. So, there are some uses I think that we could explore more of. I have my chief technology officer. He's doing a great job in exploring how we can support our teachers, especially at the junior high level, on the use of AI, because students are going to be using it. So how do they use it to, not I don't want to assume that students are cheating. That's not, I want them to be comfortable to use technology tools to learn. And so I want the teachers to be comfortable in that regard as well. So we're looking at how we can, train the teachers, provide that exposure. We are a 1-to-1 district. I think everybody in the world is since COVID, but the realities are students have devices in their hands all the time. So how are we going to make certain they're making the right choices?
No, I think there are 3 aspects of it. One is definitely the administrator using AI to save their time at the redundant tasks. Teachers using AI to, be better aware, be better able to assess, better able to guide kids to use it ethically, and of course use it to save their time. And finally, it's a student end, where they know how to use it responsibly, not like a outsourcing agent, but more like a research assistant. And how are those kids able to understand the impact of AI in the future of jobs, in the fields that they want to work in, whether it's healthcare, finance, media, education itself. So I think there's a different angle. So have you guys invested anything? Like, have you guys adopted anything to fulfill that gap till now?
We have not yet. We're still in the exploration stage. Like I said, we're pre-K to 8, and most of our elementary students are not really there. Junior high kids are starting to play. If we had high school, I think we would be looking at it more aggressively. But we want to start with our teachers and with our junior high students in regards to those pieces. I love the way you just described that as you're not outsourcing, but it's a research assistant, because it's really helping them understand that what you're getting isn't necessarily what you need to produce. It's giving you more ideas to incorporate into your product. So, and even teachers using AI for lesson planning, it gives them a lot broader scope of things that they may not have thought of.
Right. No, absolutely. I think that's very critical part of how you guys are navigating that piece. And I'm glad you guys have identified it. I think a lot of people have not yet identified it too. So I think the first step is all about awareness, and then you can start looking for solutions. Because even in middle school, I would say the usage has gone dramatically up. We work with a lot of schools, so we have seen that. And academic integrity is definitely one aspect of it, but then there are other aspects of student using it for all sort of things. They're using it for mental health, which is something unhinged in that way, and they're using it for companionship. So doing it for assignment is of course one problem, but doing it for companionship is a whole different problem, which
Oh yeah, that is that's a scary part.
yeah.
I used AI the other day. I was working on a PowerPoint presentation, and I wanted a visual that would could be a picture to show what trust and resiliency maybe look like.
Mm,
And the picture it gave me, I loved it. It's the people are kind of blurred, but it's the shaking of hands and the smiles and the connection. And I'm like, that's trust and resiliency.
yeah,
That's I love the way that it was able to do that in a way that I couldn't have come up with on my own.
right.
So there are definitely good uses of it. We had an entire administrator training the end of last year with an expert that came in, and he really did a great job with different activities using various AI tools, not just one, because we want to be able to look at all different possibilities
Yeah.
and know how to use them.
No, I agree. I think it's completely not a smart move to marry to one single product because the industry
Yep.
is evolving so quickly that, um, it's important to make sure that you have that openness and flexibility to try different things and know what's best for you, because it's something like emails. Some people might like Yahoo, some people like Gmail, some might like even still AOL. So
Oh my God.
but yeah, this is a question that I always very interested to know. So in your district, like, are principals the one who chooses the professional development for their educators, or is it like a district wide decision to decide any upskilling of those teachers?
Well, I would kind of say it's both. Things that need to be part of the overall system,
Mhm.
we work on at the district level. There might be specific little pieces of something where a principal may want to go a certain direction. We don't. Our school districts are very unique and autonomous, but yet they have to know they're part of a full system. So they don't necessarily go off on their own and pick curriculum and pick different things of that nature. And anything technology based, they know we have to be able to support it. So we have to have those technology things have to be pretty much systematized across the district.
Yeah.
So we try to provide a menu of things that we can support, and then they can choose within that menu.
No, makes total sense. Okay, this is a little wild question, so it might make you think. Um,
Okay.
if there is one problem that you want AI to solve for, um,
Mm.
which it may or may not have solved, but you don't know. So what would that problem be?
Well, that's a tough one. Um, could it solve the problem of politicians speaking before they think? No, sorry. Sorry. Don't mean to get political, but it would be interesting. I, you know, I don't know. I don't know enough about it yet to know what I don't know.
Think about it like
Um,
a magic tool. You don't need to think about its capabilities. We don't need to think about that. That's the whole beauty. Think as randomly as possible and just say, I don't know if it can solve it, but I wish that I have a magical wand. So just assume that to be an AI.
Well, to some extent on the social networking side, the idea of extending counseling services. So, is there a way that AI could safely be considered a potential extension of counseling services for a student or a family who can't get to or afford a counselor? But I say safely because we have to be certain that there are some guardrails in place
Right.
to protect the people in the process. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's something that could happen. A lot of my students were very high poverty, and so I mean everybody gets free breakfast and lunch. It's very high poverty. So having access to things that may come just as natural to other communities,
Mhm.
we don't always have. So
Right.
maybe that's a function.
Actually makes sense. So you're talking about like more emotional support therapy or career counseling therapy? Career counseling you're asking for.
Probably both, because I think some of the families could use some career counseling. The parents could, to help them break the cycle of poverty. How do they, work toward getting the better job, so to speak, so they don't have to work three jobs, and helping the student and the family with the trauma they deal with on a daily basis.
No, the agencies do recommend that there should be a 1:250 ratio of counselors, but I think the ratio is anywhere between like average 400 to 500 to like kids to one a counselor. So like even if
Yeah.
those counselors are really, really dedicated, they can't even have one meeting with all throughout the year. So that's
Right, right. Well, that's we feel like we're doing great because we have social workers in all of our buildings, and the larger buildings have so more than one social worker and counselors. And we have bilingual social workers as well to help with our bilingual families, but it's still not enough.
so yeah, I think those were my questions. I think those do cover a lot of aspects of the current leadership problems and future leadership opportunities. I think I did
Yeah.
try to cover from all aspects, but is there anything that I may have left that you want to share to the aspiring future leaders?
I think the best message I could give to aspiring leaders is don't let the chaos of a moment keep you from wanting to be a leader, because we have to be able to navigate through the chaos, and we need people who care. We need people who can be authentic. Don't try to be somebody that you're not. You got to be exactly who you are, and let your heart lead and your head follow.
Yeah. No, I do believe that I think the opportunity exists in chaos a lot more than in a peaceful
Mhm.
time. From all angles. So I think
Yeah.
a true leader or an influential leader do arises when there's chaos. So I think
Yes.
if you
Yes.
actually call yourself an aspiring leader, so this is the real time to show
This
up.
is the time. Yep. This is the time.
But perfect. This has been fantastic, Dr. Roos, and perfect. I can't thank you enough for your knowledge sharing, and let's be in touch.
I appreciate the time, and I look forward to tapping in with more that your company does.
Perfect. Have a good day.